Well, it's here, PunchBox 2, and I have a feeling it is going to break the internet. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I get the feeling that when PunchBox 1 was released, it kind of went under the radar for a little bit. However, over time, I think it's become D16's most popular plugin. Certainly in terms of a dedicated fan base, anyway. Now, let's go straight to it. They've done an absolutely fantastic job. As you'd expect from D16, really. They always manage to impress. Now, upon first glance, I wasn't really sure what was new, but as I kept digging, that list seemingly became endless. So essentially, they've been able to maintain familiarity, but also add a ton of features, but most crucially, not killing the workflow like many developers do by the time a plugin gets to V2 and V3. But first of all, obviously you don't want to hear me waffling on, you want to hear it. Let's listen to some of my favorite presets, and just a word of warning, I do prefer the harder, darker kicks, but obviously don't think that that's all this does. In fact, jumping ahead here, but this is probably the only kick synth you need, regardless of your genre. So let's open up our preset browser, and as you can see, all the ones with the little hearts are the ones that are my favorites. And to be honest, I could have shown you all of them, but in the interest of time, I needed to be selective. Then we click on the little heart up here, and now we've got a filtered list, just on my favorites. And let's start with Acidic. Most importantly though, it inspires me massively. Just listening to those presets, the second I finish this video, I'll be starting a techno track with it, for sure. And like I said at the start, there are way too many features to cover them all, so I'll run through them quite quickly. So let's start with a brief overview of the structure for those not familiar with version 1. To the left, we have 4 generators. These are essentially things that make sound. The first 3 are sample layers. And then we get to the 4th layer, which is the synth engine. But more on that later, because that's where a lot of the V2 changes are. And then to the right of that, we have 4 FX slots, all of which can be dragged and dropped and moved around. The last option is fixed. And that's where you have the limiter and the mono compatibility, or the mono bass I should say, but also extensive routing capabilities. So here you can see insert 1 comes at the start, and then insert 2 drops in after FX1. But you can send it wherever you like essentially, or you can swap them around. The routing here is really quite comprehensive. Also, while we're on the subject of routing, if we go up to options and we click on output settings, we open up the rear panel, and then each of the 4 layers can be set to the individual outputs, or you can bypass those previously mentioned effects completely. In the 3 sample layers, there is now a portamento option as well as ring mod, and we can also determine the relative mix into each of the insert FX sends. Moving on to the main engine or the main generator, we have another sample layer, we have a 909 engine, an 808, a 606, or new for version 2, wavetable, which looks exactly like the Waldorf wave. Nice touch. You might be thinking, why would I want a wavetable in my kick synth? Well, let's have a listen, shall we? Let's turn off layer 2 and layer 3. Layer 1 is already inactive, so now we just have the wavetable. Let's have a listen to what that brings to this kick. That rumble just sounds insane. In the effects, in the Pit Crusher, we can now reduce the resolution, but what I want to get to is the filter, which now features the lovely SH101 4-pole filter. And I assume D16 have taken this from their Lush 101 synth, which sounds awesome by the way, go check that out. However, unlike the 101, this also features high pass and bandpass modes. Then on the distortion, it's mainly the same, except you get a visual display of the shape, and on the EQ, you now get a vintage mode. And as we all expected, the pull tech that was released last year, we all kind of guessed that that was going to appear in PunchBox, and indeed it does. However, what I really want to show is the advanced mode at the top. Let's open that up. And this is what I was saying at the start, that what I showed up till now was very, very familiar. Just an occasional new feature. So you could open this up and just resume working exactly as you would on the previous one. But now opening up the advanced tab, it really has now elevated PunchBox 2 to the ultimate kick synth. So looking to the left, we currently have our kick selected. We also have our amp selected, but we can select pitch and you can see the little red box appear over pitch to let you know that we're editing that. We can turn that off, but I like to have it on. And then we now adjust the curve for pitch. The wavetable position, similarly, so that's where that rumble was coming in that we heard earlier. Or we can add something else, so we can add a low cut, for example, in the wavetable. And as you saw, we only saw 2 options there, or only 1 now because we've already added that. But if we go to the sample, for example, then our options change to basically accommodate what you've got selected in the generator. We can select the visibility of our other layers, so layer 3, 2, and 1, as you can see, which enables a comparison of your curve. And then finally, a global adjustment for our envelope length here. As you can probably tell, I'm absolutely in love with this plugin. There's only one addition I would like, and potentially I'm missing it, but I've looked and I can't find it, and that is an undo and redo button. Other than that, it's perfect, and at this stage, my plugin of the year. At the time of recording, I'm not sure of the pricing, but it's D16, so they're always incredibly reasonable, especially with upgrades. Download the demo as always, and I would recommend keeping your credit card by your side because you'll probably need it. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with something else. We'll see you then. Bye.